Before we continue with the rest of the video, we could use your help. Click that like button to help spread the word about WatchJojo, and also be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss our future videos. These residents in China took a stand against land developers. What unfolded was insane. In a field in central China, a war is waging. From his post in a ramshackle watchtower, a farmer fires a homemade bazooka at the strangers who seek to claim his land. It's one of the last stands in a battle that's been raging for years. For Yang Youde and others like him, this is their final chance to defend their homes against a seemingly unstoppable tide of highways, apartment complexes, and shopping malls. Welcome to the world of China's nail houses, as economic development continues in the country at breakneck pace. What was once a land of rice fields and rural farmhouses is becoming swamped by the bright lights and trappings of capitalist society. But as ancient villages are razed to be replaced by modern buildings, a sprinkling of households across China have been clinging to the last vestiges of the old days. Across the country, some stubborn residents have been refusing to sell up, creating problems for the developers and a new breed of cult heroes for a country in flux. Historically, those living under China's communist government were unable to lay claim to their own homes. With all property technically owned by the state, those in charge were theoretically able to dictate the fate of any building or piece of land. Toward the end of the 1990s, the economy began to improve and private developers set their sights on prime locations around China. Of course, many of these locations were already home to many people. Some of the proposed development sites were on top of settlements that had been inhabited for hundreds of years. Because residents had little to no rights in relation to their properties, most were easily bought off or intimidated by developers. Many were palmed off with compensation at a fraction of the market value. For those who refused to leave their homes, times were tough. Often local governments took the side of the developers and ordered residents to vacate their land. Sometimes intimidation tactics were used, and residents were sometimes even arrested on fabricated charges. Despite such hardships, many owners stood their ground against property developers and declined repeated offers to sell up. Their homes became known as nail houses, a term used to reflect their stubborn nature and refusing to be hammered down or extracted. One of the most famous nail houses was located in Chongqing in southwest China. In 2007, developers hoping to build a new shopping mall on one street hit a snag. Although 280 families have been successfully relocated in order for construction to begin, one family refused to leave their home. They'd lived in the property for 3 generations. Undeterred, the developers pressed on. They demolished all the buildings around the lone house and cut off the power and water supplies. Then they dug a 30-foot hole all around it, leaving the nail house marooned on an island in the middle of a construction site. In the city of Wenling on the East China coast, meanwhile, farmer Lu Bogan had spent almost $100,000 renovating his home before authorities offered him just $35,000 in compensation to relocate. When he refused, they simply built their road around his home. In Rian, Zhejiang province, Zheng Meizhu also declined the offer made on her home. Developers demolished the buildings around her, leaving a vertical sliver of apartment block. In the last few years, the Chinese government has introduced new laws to protect property owners. They stipulate that market value compensation must be paid to families forced to relocate, and that violence should never be used to evict them. However, it seems that some developers are ignoring these laws. Nail house owners tell stories of intimidation, with fireworks being set off at their properties, windows being broken, and trenches being dug around their homes. With the local police often turning a blind eye, some homeowners have turned to more and more extreme methods to protect their dwellings. In Chongqing, homeowner and martial arts ace Yang Youde used nunchucks to carve out a set of traps in the trench around his house. And he threatened to use his fighting skills on anyone brave or stupid enough to try to evict him. In Wuhan in central China, farmer Yang Youde faced off with developers hoping to build on his land. He constructed a 25-foot watchtower on his property and armed himself with a DIY bazooka made from a wheelbarrow and some pipes. His explosive method of defiance garnered him cult popularity. Despite their resistance, however, it seems that everyone has a price. Youde happily dismantled his tower and vacated his property after developers offered him around $115,000, far more than his bazooka-less neighbors received. And Yang Youde laid down his nunchucks for a figure thought to be in excess of $450,000. Today, few nail houses remain, with most of their owners finally caving into the pressure to sell up and move on. However, despite attempts by the Chinese authorities to suppress news stories, the idea of the houses and their resilient owners has resonated with the Chinese public. Nail houses have become enduring symbols of defiance in an increasingly authoritarian era. Please don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell to receive everything that's new.